The shipping container. It's 1956. A random truck driver from North Carolina named Malcolm McLean is sick of waiting days to unload his trucks onto ships. So he bets everything he owns on a crazy one-time experiment. Weld some aluminium boxes onto an old tanker ship and see if it works. It was literally a single test voyage. If it failed, he was bankrupt. It didn't fail. Before him, loading a ship took days, guys carrying sacks and crates by hand. His first test voyage cut that to hours. Within 10 years, global shipping costs dropped 95% and trade exploded. That one-off temporary experiment never got replaced. Today, 800 million of those same steel boxes move 90% of stuff on the planet. Your smartphone, clothes, groceries, everything you own arrived in a box from a gamble that was never meant to become permanent. Occupation of Axis territory. After World War II, the Allies promised the occupation of Germany, Austria and Japan would only last a few years, just long enough to demilitarize and democratize them. The troops were supposed to go home by 1950 at the latest. 80 years later, they never left. Today, the United States still keeps more than 120 permanent military bases and over 80,000 troops across those three countries the Allies temporarily defeated in 1945. Ramstein Air Base in Germany and its surrounding installations form the Kaiserslautern military community, the biggest American community outside the US, complete with its own schools and malls. Plastic grocery bags were invented by Swedish engineer Sten Gustaf Thulin in the 1960s and rolled out in the US in the 70s with a big promise. They were cheaper, stronger, and, most importantly, the environmental problem would only be temporary, because they would be recycled at 70 to 80% instead of ending up in landfills. Soon, they were aggressively marketed as a superior replacement of paper bags, with ads saying paper kills trees, plastic is the future. Over 45 years later, the global recycling rate is under 5%. We make 1 trillion of them every year, and oceans are choking on the temporary solution that was supposed to save the planet. The US income tax. In the early United States, federal money came from tariffs and sales taxes because the founding fathers didn't want an income tax. That changed during the Civil War when the Union introduced the first national income tax through the Revenue Act of 1861 to help pay for the war. It was 3% and people freaked out like it was communism. The tax was meant to be temporary and was revoked in 1872, then tried again before being struck down by the Supreme Court. But the tax returned for good in 1913 with the 16th Amendment, pushed by President William Howard Taft. It was sold as only a tiny tax on the richest 1% to pay off war debt, and then it disappears. Today, after over 110 years, it's still in place and hits the middle class hard. Today's video is sponsored by Outskill, the first AI-focused education platform built to help people like you and me actually use AI at work. They are hosting a live 2-day AI mastermind training this Saturday and Sunday from 10 AM to 7 PM Eastern Time. And right now, you can join completely free as part of their New Year Upskilling Fest. It's a full 16 hours of training that's already helped build over 10 million AI-first professionals worldwide. And it's rated 4.9 out of 5 on Trustpilot. People from marketing, finance, product, operations, and engineering join because AI is no longer industry specific. It's universal. You'll learn how to build AI agents, automate workflows, connect tools like Sheets and Notion, and save hours every week. Some attendees have even launched AI services making $2,000 to $3,000 weekly. You'll also unlock premium bonuses like the AI Prompt Bible, Profit Roadmap, your personalized toolkit builder, and the AI Survival Hackbook when you sign up. Seats are limited, so click that link in the description. The Eiffel Tower was built for the 1889 World's Fair as a temporary showpiece meant to stand for only 20 years before being torn down. Many artists and writers hated it, calling it a tragic street lamp, monstrosity, and useless. The press even called its builder, Gustave Eiffel, insane. A petition signed by 300 artists called it a gigantic black smokestack that will dishonor Paris. But the backlash didn't matter because the tower wasn't supposed to stay anyway. Eiffel, however, had other plans for his precious. He began using the tower for scientific work, from weather readings to early radio broadcasting experiments. By World War I, the tower proved too valuable to lose, because it helped intercept enemy communications as a radio antenna. That saved it from demolition, and over time it turned into the most visited paid monument in the world. Some original critics later even ate at the tower's restaurant, so they didn't have to look at it. The Pentagon was originally meant to be a temporary fix for the War Department's space crisis, as the US approached World War II, since military offices were scattered across Washington in makeshift buildings. Although the plan was labeled temporary, the building was constructed with reinforced concrete and heavy-duty floors, making it far more permanent than intended. Roosevelt said that after the war it would be repurposed as a hospital or archives. Finished in 1943, it quickly became the central hub for US military operations, and the Cold War only strengthened its role. Today, it's the world's largest office building. Its 6.5 million square feet would cover 120 football fields. Because it was rushed as a temporary building, it has almost no windows, and people still get lost so badly that they installed maps and "You are here" arrows everywhere. The Korean Demilitarized Zone was created in 1953 as a temporary buffer after the Korean War armistice. A 2.5-mile wide, 160-mile long strip meant simply to separate the North and South and to prevent the fighting from starting again. Instead, it stayed in place for more than 70 years, becoming one of the world's most fortified borders full of landmines, fences and guard posts. Despite the danger to humans, the zone has unintentionally turned into a major wildlife refuge. With almost no human activity, nature has taken over, and the area now supports 6,000 plant and animal species, like cranes, bears, leopards and even tigers, wandering along old tank traps and minefields. The zone has also been a stage for psychological warfare, from South Korea blasting K-pop across the border to North Korea responding with propaganda about the greatness of their leader. Tensions have sparked incidents like the 1976 confrontation, where North Korean soldiers bludgeoned 2 American troops trimming a tree that blocked their view. Bubble wrap. In 1957, Alfred Fielding and Mark Chauvin glued 2 shower curtains together, which created air bubbles between them. They intended to make a trendy 3D wallpaper and sell it, which failed completely. People looked at it and said, "Nah," until they started popping it. Then they tried marketing it as insulation, which was another flop. As a last attempt, they pitched it to IBM to protect computers during shipping. That temporary fix for their product worked so well, we now make enough bubble wrap every year to wrap the entire Earth once, and accidentally invented humanity's favorite stress relief toy. The Chernobyl Zones, April 26, 1986. The Chernobyl nuclear reactor explodes. Soviet officials evacuate 50,000 people and declare a 30-kilometer temporary exclusion zone. They promised residents they'd be back in 3 days. Fast forward to today, nobody has returned. The zone is permanently sealed, still dangerously radioactive in places, yet it's now crawling with wolves, bears, lynx, and Przewalski horses that were extinct everywhere else in the wild. Because humans were banned forever, it accidentally became one of the most radioactive and most biodiverse places in Europe. Daylight saving time was first introduced in Germany in 1916 during World War I to conserve coal by extending daylight hours and reducing artificial lighting. Other countries soon followed, and the practice became more permanent after World War II. Fast forward a century, the energy saved is so pathetic it's less than what Americans use on outdoor Christmas lights in December. But we still do it and pay with a 6 to 25% surge in fatal car crashes and thousands of extra heart attacks the week after. Golf courses and barbecue companies love it. Longer evenings equal more sales, which is why lobbyists keep it alive. Arizona and Hawaii looked at the data, laughed and said, "We're out." Iceland, Russia, China, India, most of Africa and half of Australia all quietly dumped it forever. The rest of us are still prisoners of a World War I marketing campaign. Employer-sponsored health insurance. 1942. America is at war and the nation faces a labor shortage. To prevent inflation, the government freezes wages so companies can compete for workers. Sneaky and desperate to hire people anyway, factories start throwing in free doctor visits as a perk. The IRS shrugs and says, sure, that's tax-free, but only for the war. Then the war ends, but the perk never leaves. Instead, Congress makes the tax break permanent. In 1954, unions demand it in every contract, and suddenly your right to see a doctor is chained to wherever you punch the clock. Today, 155 million Americans only have health insurance because their boss pays for it. Lose your job, lose your coverage tomorrow. That temporary World War II trick is now older than Medicare or Medicaid and costs the government more in lost taxes every year than the entire defense budget of most countries. The QWERTY keyboard was created in the 1860s by newspaper editor Christopher Latham Scholes, who originally arranged typewriter keys alphabetically, but this caused the typewriter to jam due to fast typing. To prevent this, he rearranged the keys to separate common letter pairs as far apart as possible, creating a temporary fix that deliberately slowed typing to prevent the metal arms from crashing into each other. Scholes himself hated the final layout and tried to sell a better one. Nobody bought it. This intentionally inefficient design became the QWERTY layout. We are all still typing on a 150-year-old anti-jamming hack, designed for a machine that went extinct before color TV existed. The 99-cent pricing trick. Back in the 1800s, most stores had no cash registers, just a money drawer. If something cost a clean $2, the cashier could pocket the bill and nobody would ever know. So retailers started pricing everything with broken prices like $1.99. When the customer handed over a $5 bill, the cashier had to open the drawer to give change, and the boss could see the sale actually happened. It was a genius anti-theft trick, but the theft problem died a century ago. The 99-cent ending never left. Today, it's pure price psychology. Your brain sees $49.99 and screams 40 instead of $50. A 150-year-old anti-theft trick is still picking your pocket every time you shop. The Hollywood sign was built in 1923 as a temporary 18-month advertisement for a real estate development, originally reading Hollywood Land. Standing 45 feet tall and illuminated by 4,000 light bulbs, the sign required constant maintenance, with a caretaker living behind the first L to manage the lights. By 1949, the land portion of the sign had collapsed from weather damage and was removed, leaving just Hollywood. In the 1970s, as the remaining letters began crumbling, celebrities including Hugh Hefner and Alice Cooper helped save it, buying individual letters at $27,000, each to fund its restoration and durable steel letters, creating the iconic sign we know today. The word OK. March 1839, a Boston newspaper prints a joke. They deliberately misspell all correct as all correct and abbreviate it OK. It was never meant to leave the page. 6 months later, it's everywhere because Martin Van Buren runs for president using the nickname Old Kinderhook. Campaign slogan, Vote OK. Then telegraph operators started using it because it's the shortest, clearest confirmation code. NASA later picks it for the same reason. Today, OK is the most spoken, written and recognized word on the entire planet. TSA. 3 months after 9/11, the US government created the Transportation Security Administration, a brand new federal agency that was openly called temporary. The plan? Get airport security under control, then hand it back to private companies. 23 years later, it's still here. Over 50,000 employees, a $10 billion annual budget, and there are now people who have never flown without taking their shoes off. Undercover tests still catch TSA missing guns, knives, and fake bombs 95% of the time. The Red Cross. In 1859, Henri Dunant witnessed 40,000 men bleed out after the Battle of Solferino, because nobody could tell medics from soldiers. He then started a committee in Geneva, the precursor of the Red Cross, and in 1863 they picked the simplest possible symbol to identify helpers. Just flip the Swiss flag, a red cross on white, to honor Switzerland's neutrality and Dunant's nationality. They never dreamed it would become the most protected mark on Earth. 1 year later, it's written into the first Geneva Convention. And today, putting that symbol on anything you're not supposed to, even a fake ambulance, is an automatic war crime in 194 countries. A quiet Swiss idea to stop medics from getting shot in the 1860s is now more untouchable than any national flag, religion, or trademark in history. The London Eye was initially planned as a temporary attraction built to celebrate the new millennium, first known as the Millennium Wheel, and approved only for a 5-year lease. It was designed so it could be dismantled and moved elsewhere, built flat on the Thames River, floated into place and winched upright. But once it opened, its popularity was immediate and overwhelming. Today, it's the UK's most visited paid attraction and has a permanent license.